President Bola Tinubu to attend Bassirou Faye's inauguration as Senegalese president. African Democratic Congress, the ADC, challenges Imo State Governor Uzodinma to conduct local government election if he thinks the APC is popular at the grassroots in his state. Yunusa Tanko of the Labour Party says Julius Abure went against the advice of Peter Obi, former presidential candidate of the party, for an unconclusive convention. And outside Nigeria, President Foye Asembe of Togo orders constitutional reform back to parliament. Political parties in Mali request a time frame for elections, shunning the military junta's transition promise. Well, let's talk about tonight on Politics HQ. Impeachment. That's the hot topic in the polity of Edo and River State in Nigeria. Tonight we'll look at the unfolding impeachment issues of the deputy governor and governors of the aforementioned states, asking what role this instrument of legislative accountability and oversight plays in national politics and development. I'm Kofi Bartels. Politics HQ starts now. You're welcome. The River State House of Assembly on Saturday said it will not hesitate to impeach the state governor, Sir Siminalayi Fubara, if it becomes the last resort to uphold the Constitution. Martin Amaewhule is the Speaker of the House. He stated this at a media chat, a press conference in Port Harcourt, alongside 26 of his colleagues. That makes all of them 27 members of the House of Assembly. Now remember the saga that played out. These lawmakers, 27 of them said to be allies or loyal to Nyesom Wike, who is now the Minister of Federal Capital Territory and former governor of River State. They have been at loggerheads with the governor of River State since last year. The Amaewhule-led assembly attempted to impeach the governor, I remember, during the political crisis that engulfed River State that involved the burning of the State House of Assembly and eventual demolition on account of structural defect. President Bola Tinubu having to intervene, inviting the feuding parties to a meeting at Aso Rock Villa in Abuja, upon which they all signed an 8-point resolution. Some call it directives. Amaewhule, in that press conference, accused Governor Siminalayi Fubara of refusing to abide by all the agreements or the points of the Abuja peace agreement, and he said the governor has continued to act outside the law. Apart from not keeping up to his part of the agreement, he's accusing the governor of acting outside the law, including running River State without an approved budget. Remember the whole saga. Well, the Speaker also reserved some attention for the members of the defunct River State PDP Presidential Campaign Council, the one for the last general elections in 2023, who last week declared their support for President Bola Tinubu. These are PDP members, describing them, this Amaewhule, describing them as making an attempt to paint Nyesom Wike black before President Bola Tinubu. Now that campaign group, led by former Transportation Minister B.A. Sekibo, which coordinated the 2023 campaign activities for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar in River State, also declared their total loyalty and support, in their words, to Governor Nyesom Fubara, and they called on the president, whom they say they are also loyal to call the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike to order, saying that he had threatened publicly to destabilize the peace in River State, their words. Now, impeachment is also the hot topic in Edo State, where a 7-man panel is set up by the Chief Judge of Edo State, Milord Honorable Justice Daniel Okunbowa, to investigate the impeachment allegations against or leveled against the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, will commence their sittings, and this will begin on Wednesday, the 3rd of April. So that is in 2 days from now. We're keeping our eyes on that one. Milord Honorable Justice Okonboa had constituted the panel headed by retired Justice S.A. Omonua in compliance with the directive of the State House of Assembly to investigate allegations of gross misconduct brought against the Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu. These are all in line with Section 188, subsection 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 submitted. I must also add, if you remember, that the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja last week deferred the hearing of a suit filed by Mr. Shaibu himself to stop the impeachment move of the House of Assembly till April 15, 2024. We'll be looking at that. But a question on the lips of a lot of political observers is, what is the importance of impeachment in political governance? Who defines the real meaning of impeachable offenses that the legislature usually talk about? Our guest tonight, joining us via video link, is a legal practitioner, Amaewhule. In the studio with us, Dr. Femi Mosaku Johnson. He's the founding registrar and chief executive officer of the Association of Corporate Governance Professionals of Nigeria and chairman of HERO Advisory Group. Gentlemen, good evening and thank you very much for your time on the program tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Mr. Bane, I'm sure you can hear me, and thanks for your time. I'll start with you, Amaewhule. What are your thoughts on the two impeachment scenarios playing out, one in River State and the other in Edo State?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Good evening, and then happy Easter celebration and happy New Year also. I want to greet also the guests in the house. Now, what I want to say about the issue of impeachment provision in the Constitution is very deliberate. You know, when a governor, a deputy governor, or the president or the vice president are elected, they are not supposed to be removed in such a frivolous manner or be disturbed in the process of governance. That is why you have immunity clause in the Constitution that covers both the president and the vice. And
we seem to have a frozen connection with Amaewhule. We'll come back to Amaewhule when we get a better connection. But Dr. Mosaku Johnson,
Yes.
What are your thoughts on what's in playing out? Let's look at Edo State and then we go over to River State.
Well, I think the problem we have is that we have not been able to separate politics from governance.
All right, sir.
Most of the issues that you see around impeachment basically are political.
Okay. Yes, sir.
They are political issues. Right. And these are some of the issues that are very, very critical.
All right, sir.
Anywhere or anytime you hear that there is an issue that relates to impeachment,
okay,
basically it is political.
Okay.
And that's the problem. If we are able to sort out or to separate politics from governance, it will go a long way. And when you look at the history of impeachments in Nigeria, starting from Balarabe Musa's case in 1981, it is basically politics. Because you need to, you see, I think we are going to put down some of these factors.
Okay.
It's a critical area, and also it is very, very cumbersome. It is not something that you just go to get majority and that guy is impeached. It is not as easy as that. It is very, very tedious journey that any government can actually go into. We have the case of also Alamesiaga in 9th of December 2005. We have that issue.
Yes.
Two, it is political. The Ladoja issue, 12th of January 2006. These are political issues. You have Joshua Dari, 13th of November 2006. It is basically political. And come to think about 2nd November 2006, when Peter Obi was impeached, it is basically not about this guy is not performing gross misconduct. When you want to explain gross misconduct, you need like 2 days to explain it.
What do you mean is gross misconduct?
Basically, they talk about mismanagement of fund, mismanagement of fund, using the official machinery of the government as one's personal tools. These are some of the issues.
Because it seems to be ambiguous when you hear the term gross misconduct. I mean, anything could be gross misconduct. Isn't it an open blank check?
It is not only ambiguous, but it is vague. And that is why the Constitution says that you set up a panel. You send a motion to the chief judge of the state, depending on who is the chief judge of that state. Then he sets up a panel, and the 7-man panel, they will meet. Then within 3 months, they must submit their report back to the House, and the proceed will start. And after that, that is if the panel actually found the governor or deputy governor guilty. That is when you can now say, okay, you are now going back to the House. You now need 2/3 of the majority. And let me say this. This has been a money game from day one.
What do you mean by money game? Explain to us what do you mean by money game.
So many money exchange hands. You need 2/3, is that not so, of legislators?
Yes.
They cannot just vote without anything. And that takes us back to the caliber of people that are actually being elected into that position. We say they are honorable. Are they honorable? We say they are distinguished. Are they distinguished? These are the issues. So you look at the foundation. Why do they? Why do many people? Oh, I'm going to this. I'm going to politics. Why do they go to politics? Do they have any vision?
So it's purely political.
It is purely political. It is purely political.
Let's run through, whilst we're waiting for Monday, Sir Obani to join us. Let's look at you, because you went through the history.
Yes.
And of course, an executive office, an executive officer, we're looking at state executive, federal executive, being the president, leaves office not only at the expiration of his tenure, can also leave also by virtue of death or incapacitation, but also on impeachment. Section 143 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, contains a process for impeachment of the governor. Section 188 contains that for impeachment of the president, Section 143, and then 188 for that of a governor and his deputy. Like you said, the first formal impeachment in Nigeria took place in 1981, 8th of May, 1981, when Governor Balarabe, the then governor of Kaduna State, was impeached under the 1979 Constitution. Indeed. But it's interesting to note, sir, that if we look at the trajectory of impeachment of governor or the state executives from 1981, using Section 170 sub 3 of the 1979 Constitution, when Nigeria returned to democracy, in the first 4 years of Olusegun Obasanjo as president, there was not a single impeachment of any governor in Nigeria. But from the second 4 years of Olusegun Obasanjo, we saw a deluge, a flood of impeachment. You talked about it. You mentioned Ayo Fayoṣe, 2006. You mentioned Peter Obi, 2006. You mentioned Joshua Dare. We all know what happened in Plateau State. 2006. You mentioned Rashid Ladoja. 2006. You mentioned Debri Almesia. 2005. And of course, Murtala Yako was most recently 2014. Are all these cases political? I want to analyze them. Are all these cases political, sir?
Yes, I must say they are all. I must say with no fear of contradiction that basically they are political in nature. Because when you want to impeach somebody, you are talking about the fact that why are you impeaching him? He has committed gross violation or misconduct against the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, state the offense. Most of the time, the offense are not tenable. The offense cannot pass through the scrutiny of justice. Those are the issues. And this same governor, if he otherwise plays game, plays ball, there wouldn't have been any need for him to be impeached. Now look at the process. The process is tedious. The process is tedious. Maybe we'll look at the process.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so back to the political argument, and when we have Monday Bunny back on it, we'll put him back. But are you telling me, since you're saying that the impeachment of the executive is used by the legislature as a political tool, are you telling me that governors in Nigeria don't commit impeachable offenses? So,
Of course they do. But when they, it's highest bidder game. Sadly to note, dishearteningly so. It is politics, and that's why I'm bothered, because politicians cannot develop any state or any country. And we need to find alternative.
to politics?
Yes, we need to begin to find alternative.
Do you think we should end politics?
We may not end it, but we need to find alternative to development. Because this is what we are going to have. When you have a state that is in the murky water of politics, impeachment and this and that, the legislators are meant to bring down a law for the country, or for the state. But they are enshrined in political murky water. Throughout the 4 years, that is what they'll be battling with.
Okay, all right, so I'll come back to you. Monday Bani, legal practitioner, is still with us. Monday Bani, if you can hear us, it's good to have you back. Our guest in the studio here said he believes that impeachment is used as a tool for politics. Do you agree with that? What are your views, basically, on that assertion?
I'm very sorry because I was speaking, I didn't know that the line has actually gone off. What I was trying to say is that the provision of impeachment was put in the Constitution in order to ensure that governors and presidents who are elected by the people do not in any way get in there and begin to go contrary to the law, since there is immunity clause that is provided for in the Constitution that makes them immune from being sued, while they are in governance until they leave office. Now, it gives it to the legislature in order to ensure that if any governor or any president, is guilty of what we call gross misconduct, then they have a right. But there are procedures for removal, and you must comply with all the provisions of the law, of the constitutional provision, before you can remove any of these people that are mentioned. Now, if you don't comply with the provision of the Constitution in removal, then that is where the court can come in. And funny enough, the law itself, the Constitution says that in the course of this impeachment proceeding, the court do not have any jurisdiction whatsoever to question the validity of the process or whatever has been done by the legislature, except where there is a clear violation of the procedure that has been provided for in the Constitution. So over time, we have discovered that this particular impeachment proceeding has been abused by the Legislative Assembly. Many times, you mentioned Obi and even Ladoke and others, where the legislature did not comply with the provisions of the Constitution. Some of them even took the proceeding to a hotel. Some even went to guest houses in order to remove a governor. And of course, at the end of the day, the court will always tell them that this is clear breach of the provisions of the Constitution. So it is a measure that is put in place in order to checkmate, bad governance and make sure that governors, comply with the rule of law. But over time, we have discovered that it's now used purely for vendetta, especially when it involves deputy governors, or even deputy vice president. Remember the Atiku saga, how President Obasanjo wanted to use that process in order to remove Atiku, and he fought to the last and all that. So it's been abused over time. And why that abuse is because the provision of the Constitution is nebulous. It says if you're accused of gross misconduct, it didn't define what amounts to gross misconduct. So in most instances, the legislator now, even if you are chasing the girlfriend of the governor, or you just have a misunderstanding with any of the members or with the governor, they can just frame up anything whatsoever without any iota of truth. They can accuse you of anything. And this is actually what is going on now with Obaseki's government in Edo, where we all know what happened is that the deputy governor ran for the office of the governor, in primary election. And they felt that he shouldn't, because the governor has a candidate and he should not. He even announced his own result, and that they consider audacity, that they consider disloyalty. And the only way now to punish him is actually to impeach him. By Wednesday, we will hear the result. He has already been impeached. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. So it is the abuse that is inherent in the system we should be able now to address. In the constitutional amendment, we should be able to take a look at those provisions that make provision for the impeachment. Are we really complying with them? What is gross misconduct? Is there no way we can define what amounts to gross misconduct in order to remove the inherent abuse that has been over time used by legislative assemblies in order to punish the executives? No, that is
all right.
the issue.
Before I come back to our guests in the studio, Monday Bani, since you're agreeing that this instrument has been abused by both the executive and the legislature, the executive in the case where the deputy governor's or position is at stake, in the legislature in the case where they want to remove any of the two executive heads.
Yes.
What role has the judiciary played in this abuse that you're talking about?
Now, that again is an issue because the judiciary has a role to play in terms of the chief judge, constituting the panel, of the people that will investigate the governor. And most times, of course, the judiciary will go ahead and constitute, when they have followed the process of impeachment, and it gets to the level where the CJ of the state will have to constitute panel. It will only take a very strong-willed and wise CJ to say, look, also to refuse, to constitute any panel if there is no due compliance. But when they have complied with all the provisions of the Constitution in terms of giving him adequate notice and following the procedure, if you look at that particular section, there are step-by-step procedure. I think it's up to that 10 procedure you have to take until the final thing is done, and then the judiciary has no jurisdiction to question the validity. Now, the judiciary's level come in when they have to actually constitute the panel of members that will investigate and all that, So if a judge feels that, look, you have not complied with the other one, you have not complied before coming to my own position of constituting a panel, the CJ can refuse this. But of course, that most times who pays the piper, it takes the two. Most of the judiciary chief judges are also not independent. Over time, we know that most of them are not, But before now, we know that the situation where the chief judges were very, very, very independent, and they were not in any way having a relationship with the executive. But recently, we are seeing that collaboration going on. Most times also, they don't go against the interest of the governor. If anyone does, you can lose your job. You can also be punished. You can be denied even financial, help or assistance from the executive. So over time, we have seen them complying, even without questioning whether the process has actually been complied with. So they have a role to play.
All right. So are you saying that they are complicit in this abuse?
I won't specifically say, because there's one instance where a chief judge refused to constitute a panel because he felt that there is no due compliance with other provisions of the Constitution before he came to his own talk. There has been that instance. So I'm not talking about being them being complicit now. I can't make that categorical statement. But the problem most times in impeachment procedure is one issue of requisite number of those that will pass the vote of that will take vote in order to remove a governor and all that. Most times they don't comply with it. The vote of those who will sit in order to pass a motion, that will actually lead to the impeachment proceedings and all that. Most times, even the sitting where they even will sit in order to take that decision, most times they always do it in the wrong place and all that. So there has been instances where they have not complied strictly, with the provisions, and most times, and I've said it before your station, the court will always nullify the process. And at that time, the tenure of that government would have ended. And even if you win at the lower court, they go on appeal. We take average of 7 or 8 years to decide at the appeal level. And even if you win, they still go to Supreme Court. Take average of 10 years to decide at the Supreme Court level. By that time, you would have lost interest. The government has ended. The only victory you are getting is only a pronouncement, but they're not restoring you to that position. Yes.
Okay, Monday Bunny, interesting thoughts. You're saying you've kept it pretty diplomatic there, but you've made some quite interesting things. I want to come to Dr. Mosako Johnson here in the studio. What's your take, sir, on the role of the judiciary in this abuse of this instrument called impeachment that we're all talking about?
Yes, as a corporate governance practitioner, it bothers us when we discover that there is no separation of power in the true sense of it. We are bothered. Who appoints that state chief judge? Who appoints him? It's the governor. You can't expect too much from judiciary when they are appointed by the politician. If you go to other countries, they have a way of appointing those kind of people so that there can be checks and balance. In Nigeria, the president appoints the Minister of Justice, the Inspector General of Police. The president appoints INEC chairman.
But the Constitution says the president and the governors are the ones to appoint. The police council.
The police council, yes. you discover that the president appoints INEC chairman. And this same president is still going to contest in that same election that the INEC chairman so appointed will be the judge. So when you are talking about coming back to the states, you appoint the judge for the state. Who appoints that judge? Governor appoints the judge, and the case of the governor is going to that judge. Now you talk about the issue that relates to structure, that relates to impeachment and so on. Of course, there's no way you can basically have a very, very objective result at the end of the day. Even when you set up the panel, of course, are influenced in most cases. Now you go to the chief judge that is appointed by the governor, then you come back to the house itself.
But these are panels made up of eminently qualified persons, both from the academia, you have professors, from the judiciary, eminent persons. How could they be possibly influenced?
The only way the eminent personality
and technocrats
will not be influenced is if they are people of incorruptible integrity. Today now you have crisis of integrity all over the place. Let me say this, the major crisis of our country is not Boko Haram, it's not IPOB. The major crisis of this country called Nigeria is the crisis of integrity. So even at the judiciary, what do we have? There was a time a chief justice of Nigeria was being sworn in and so on. And I told people that were with me, I said, from the advice that he gave, this man is not likely to be free of corruption. And that's a problem. It's a big problem for us. Now that process, basically impeachment of governor, deputy, and so on. Basically, if you look at it, put it on the ground. Now, I think Monday Bani was talking about the gross misconduct that up to today, nobody has been able to define it. Well, we don't even have what exactly we are talking about. What are the things that we are talking about? Is it embezzlement of public fund, looting of the fund, nepotism, autocratic disposition?
Okay.
What are we talking about?
Okay.
And there's no separation of power in those.
Interesting. You're basically saying the hands of the judiciary are tied, and they have been made complicit by the executive because of the mode of appointment of the heads of the judiciary, both at the state and federal level.
Yes.
Monday Bani, is this the situation as you see it, that we have the hands of the judges or the heads of the judiciary at the state and federal levels tied because of the mode of appointment of judges or heads of judiciary in these parts of this arms of government or levels of government, sorry?
I want me to use the word tied, the hands that tied.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I have a right to remain silent on that issue. I wouldn't like the word tied, the hands that tied. The point is that we still have men of integrity. You know, my brother in the studio has pointed the issue of integrity, as one of the crises we have. And also even the issue of elites in Nigeria living up the expectation. We have seen other nations, where the elites wake up and say, look, we can't continue like this. And they take a decision. Look at what happened in Senegal. When they ran to judiciary in order for the man to extend the tenure, or his tenure, I think that next year and all that, the people revolted. And when they ran to the judiciary, the said, no, you cannot, because there is no provision for that in the Constitution. So I just want a situation where the elites must come to realize that, look, this country is clearly in our hands. And we must be able to build, an integrity nation, in every respect, and begin to insist on right things being done. The moment everyone, both the public servant, both the civil servant, everyone, the lawyers, the judges, the journalists, everyone, doctors, begin to say, look, we have a nation and we must be able to serve this nation and begin to do the right thing. That is where the consciousness will come. But now, it's like there is deficiency of integrity everywhere. We are all deficient everywhere. Even when you talk about the elites who are appointed now as members of the panel, are they not professors that are conducting elections for INEC? Professors, we thought that university professors will be the one to do the best thing for us as a nation. And I don't know the one even rigging the election and even declaring unsafe, a safe few of them, like we had in Abia State, where the woman said no, despite all the pressure that was put on this woman. The woman said, enough of this. I mean, we have to start somewhere as a nation and all that. But how many of them do we have like that as professors? How many of them do we have like that as lawyers? How many of them do we have as journalists, as judges? So deficiency of integrity of the leads are everywhere in Nigeria. So, but one day I believe that with prayer point and with consciousness coming together, we say, look, we must save Nigeria, and we begin to insist on right being done. Even if you put me as a member of the panel, and I get in there, and you're not able to provide evidence against this deputy governor or against the governor, I say I will not in any way be led into going to impeach or ask a governor to go because of the fact that you want me to ask him to go. There must be a reason why he must go. If all those allegations are not proven, I'm not going to turn in the
But Monobali, what role? Monobali, what role is the as civil society organizations and groups like the Nigeria Bar Association, the body of benchers, and others playing in ensuring that the judiciary is allowed to do its job without interference, without coercion, without any need to accede to the demands or the desires of the executive and the legislature?
The constitutional provision has been over time, reviewed in order to ensure financial autonomy and independence of the judiciary, both at the state and federal level. At the state level, it's not been implemented, but at the federal level, there's a level of implementation where they are now, independent, financially. Now we are now also talking about even reviewing their salary, which is ongoing. I think as part start reading in the House of Reps, because their salaries were not reviewed over 20 or 30 years or whatever, and they are being paid peanuts. We also feel that, look, the best way is to get these people to be well paid, remunerated. We also have to give them financial autonomy. We also allow them to dispense justice without any due interference. That again depends on the individual, because there are judges who are very bold enough, and they have paid the supreme sacrifice or being kicked out of the system because of their boldness and all that. But there are those also who have actually resisted and they're still in the system and all that. So what we're saying is that we must begin to take into cognizance all the factors, issue of financial independence, issue of recruitment process of those who are bringing into the judiciary, and then the issue of also the learning and the skill and the competence of those that are coming in, and then the issue of their salaries, being reviewed in order to reflect, the volume of work they carry out, and then this issue of the basic infrastructure for them to work with. By the time we do all that, I have this absolute belief that our judiciary will be one of the best in Africa, and that time is almost here. That's my belief.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to you, Mandubani, but also to our guest, Dr. Mosaku Junction. I want to talk some more about the judiciary. He's talked about the mode of recruitment of judges. Yes. We will talk about that when we come back from our next break. For those of you watching at home, please stay with us. It's the Politics HQ right here on East Central Television. Welcome back. Still looking at the use of impeachment as a tool for oversight, legislative oversight, even executive oversight as well as a check and balance in the governance structure in Nigeria. Our guest tonight, Dr. Mosaku Johnson. He is with us in the studio, founding registrar and chief executive officer of the Association of Corporate Governance Professionals of Nigeria. He is also chairman of Hero Advisory Group. Joining us via video link, Mandubani, a legal practitioner, and it's good to have the two gentlemen in the studio. Looking at it from the legal and corporate governance angle, you might say. And before we went on the break, we were looking at the role of the judiciary. So before we move on to others, Mandubani talked about the process of recruitment of judges.
Yes.
I've seen in some instances, some judges or some lawyers complain that certain judges rose too quickly to certain positions when there were others in the rank of seniority who could have been considered for those positions. What are your thoughts on the relationship, the marriage, or the interconnection? Let me just stay back a bit and plead the fifth like Mandubani. But what are your thoughts on the relationship between the judiciary and the executive in terms of appointment of judges? And how do you think this affects the impeachment tool?
Yes, in corporate governance, there is what we call FART. F-A-R-T. Okay. If you are appointing your judges, no problem. But make sure that you put some guidelines in place. When I talk about FART, it's one of the guidelines that we corporate governance practitioners usually put to the table. F, fairness. Is this appointment fair to all? A, accountability. am I accountable in this direction that I'm about to take? Our responsibility not to be nepotistic, not to look at your tribe, your family, and so on, and appoint them. There's no way checks and balance can work when the members of the judiciary and so on, they are the same family. No way checks and balance can work. I cannot check my wife when we are in the space of work. And that is why even ordinary space of a job all over the place, you can't have the same a man and a woman in the same division.
Are you saying that you don't support the practice of maybe wife, daughter, son, or husband of a politician holding a critical role in the judiciary?
Absolutely unacceptable.
Why?
Is there fairness there? Would there be fairness when you have your wife, you have your husband, you have your brother, you have your sisters, and they have to sit on the case of other people?
But it's been happening, and so far we've not seen anyone complain about it. Maybe it's been working well.
People, no, it's not that people are not complaining. It's not because people don't have problem with what they are doing. You know, I was talking about fact. Our responsibility. Are we responsible? Then the last one, transparency. Am I transparent enough to show to people this is what I'm doing? And these are some of the issues. Like I was talking about transparency. Up to today, Nigerians don't know what Senate, a senator earns. Up to this morning, Nigerians don't know what House of Rep man earns. This is a case of you employed somebody because we citizens of Nigeria, we are their boss. We are their bosses. And we don't know what we are paying to our staff. A senator, a rep, they are our staff. And I don't know what we are paying to them. And I'm talking about transparency as a corporate governance practitioner.
Okay.
I said, this is not acceptable in a civilized society. And that's why we say that. That's why Monday Bani also said that there is the need for us to sit down, amend the constitution, do the needful so that we can have a country.
Okay, interesting. Monday Bani, I don't know if you will comment on what he just said, but I mean, is this different from what we see in other climes, in other parts of the world, where we have the executive being held accountable by the judiciary? We've seen what's happening to Donald Trump. You can't tell me it's not political. He was first president to be impeached, even though he wasn't kicked out of office, but they call it impeachment. I wonder what kind of impeachment that is. And we saw what happened to Bill Clinton when he was taken before the authorities by Ken Starr, who was a special prosecutor in the Monica Lewinsky saga. He only managed to escape through the skin of his teeth. So like, if you look at even the case in River State, that this impeachment is a tool to ensure the independence of the judiciary. For once, Mandy Obani, in River State, we have the executive, so legislature, standing up to the executive. And it has never been the case in River State, at least on this scale. Mandy Obani?
Yeah, the point is that our institutions must be allowed to work and work perfectly. We have systemic issues. You mentioned other countries where those who have ruled their countries were even being tried. Look at America as big and as strong as America is. Look at what Donald Trump is facing presently. He's not, through with all the legal cases and all that. Remember that even while he was a president, he was visited by institutions. He wanted to cause mutiny. Even in America, the institution resisted him. So the building strong institution is very key. We have not had a situation where former heads of state have been put on trial because, one, the security agencies have to investigate and be very thorough in their investigation and gather all the evidence that should be used in order to nail those who were corrupt while in governance. If you don't have that built up, you don't build it up from that scratch, then judiciary will not have any role to, because judiciary will rely on evidence that has been provided by the security agencies who have investigated and gathered all the evidence that is unassailable in order to convict somebody who is alleged to have committed a crime. So what we should now be doing, my brother, and it's very, very serious matter, is let's begin to start from the scratch to begin to build institutions. All our institutions must work in accordance with the law that set them up. We must begin to recruit men and women who will man those institutions, who will be upright, to make sure that everything works perfectly. If you don't have those two combined, strong institution and men that can also man, because you can have institution and somebody comes up and mess it up. America was a very strong country. When Donald Trump came and wanted to mess this up, you see how the system resisted. Because somebody who is bad can come and mess up the entire system. So building institution is key. Then having the right caliber of men and women that man those institutions, are also very important. Let's begin to do this thing like as a nation, getting strong institutions, getting right men and women to man those institutions. Before you know it, we'll be like other nations, and we begin to do things are right. But the problem today is that one, we don't have strong institutions. Secondly, once in a while we have strong men, and those strong men, cannot in any way equate themselves with institutions that are very strong. Someone like Akunyili, if you remember why she was in NAFDAC. After Akunyili left NAFDAC, before she came in there was nothing known about NAFDAC. After she left, have you heard about anything about NAFDAC? No, in groups. It's just one person that came. The same thing when this guy came out was FCT minister, and that is El-Rufai. Yeah. El-Rufai was able to make difference. Then we have now a governor in Abia State in the person of Alex Oti. You see what he's doing and all that, but we want to have it round. Have good men, have good women, then have strong institutions. Then everywhere in the country all of us will become very joyful because we have collected and done the right thing by having strong institutions and having the right men and women that man those institutions.
Interesting. What is the way forward? Yes. Dr. Mosaku Johnson, who fixes this? He's talked about strong institutions, but what do you think is the way forward?
Yes, strong institution is very, very key to our development. I sit down, I think about it most of the time. How do we come out of this imbroglio? How do we manage to come out of this mess that we have found ourselves? Now we need to build institutions. Incidentally, politicians cannot build institutions. Look at every facet of our country. There is corruption everywhere. This is totally unacceptable. From the place you get birth certificates to the prison, to go to the prison to see a client, from that point to the school system, to hospital system, everywhere. Look at the birth certificate. It is written very clearly, free of charge, but people are giving money to people, and it is everywhere.
Even death certificate.
Yes, even a death certificate. You have to bribe to get it. And this ABC culture, what do I call ABC culture? Articulated bribery and corruption culture cannot take us to anywhere. The first is to obliterate corruption. The first is to show the people dangers of corruption.
Who? Okay, I will go for a break, sir.
Civil society.
When we come back, I would like yourself and Monday Banu to tell us who is it from? You said civil society, but we'll expand on that when we come back after this break to round off. Please stay with us. Well, welcome back. Let's quickly round off with our guests before we end the break. Dr. Femi Mosaku Johnson was telling us about the way for the solution. You said, sir, that to have a switch from impeachment being used as a tool for politics, that civil society is a way out, way forward. Manu Bani is talking about institutions, you're talking about civil society. Yes. Tell us some more about this. How?
Yes, even the civil society we are talking about, Nigeria Bar Association is an eminent part. Okay. And we have...
have they played their role well, the NBA?
Well, I don't want to indict them, but I'm not sure.
I want to be... to
be honest,
yes.
I'm not sure, because you remember, one-man riot squad of Mr. Gani Fawemi, when he was alive, 14 years ago, he was laid to rest. Nobody will do anything without considering what Gani will say. We want a situation in this country that any president, any governor will want to do something, and he will say, what will NBA say? What would other civil societies say? They just do things anyhow now.
So it's not just the NBA, but
yes,
also
all civil societies.
All right.
And that is when the civil societies themselves, when they allow themselves to stand upright, because you cannot basically correct what we are guilty of. So you have to stand right.
Okay. All right. Mario Bani, a final word from you before we go.
Yeah, as he rightly pointed out, all of us need to play our responsibility, the civil society, the journalists, the lawyers, everyone, the MBA, we all have a role to play in having a country of very proud of. Sorry about that. We must have a role to play in terms of insisting on good governance, in terms of ensuring that the people that we have elected are held accountable, in ensuring that they obey the rule of law, and then follow the provisions of the Constitution, because they swore to uphold it. There is no way a person will swear to uphold the Constitution, and when he gets in there, he's beginning to do contrary to the provisions of the Constitution. So all of us have a role to play in terms of insisting on adherence to our rule of law, adherence to our Constitution, and then doing the right thing for the sake of our country. That's my last word on this. If we do it, we have a hope, for this nation. And I believe so much in Nigeria, and there is hope for all of us, sir.
All right. There's hope for us, you say. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It remains to be seen what will play out in the impeachment saga in Edo State and the impeachment threat in River State, and even maybe by extension Ondo State, though that's fettered out, but you never know. I want to thank our guests tonight, barrister, legal practitioner Mani Obani, and Dr. Femi Monsako-Johnson for doing justice to the program tonight. So it's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
And hope to have you soon again.
Very well,
My name is Kofi Bartels. Be rest assured we'll return tomorrow night with the latest and hottest conversations on issues in Nigerian polity. My name is Kofi Bartels. Good night.